Dokkan keeps designing units for content that doesn't exist. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we have the EZA details for the STR Jiren and the Sub Ezas details for the Universe 6 Sub Ezas. Very interesting stuff here, and so we're going to go ahead, we're going to jump in, we're going to take a look at exactly what these guys do. So let's go ahead, let's hop over, let's start with the Jiren, because that's obviously the big main Dokkan Fest draw that everybody's excited for over on the JP celebration. So he is now a Universal Survival Saga Key 3 HP attack and defense 170%, and STR types Key 3 attack and defense 120%. So with STR Jiren's EZA and Goku Black's EZA from Worldwide, we now have officially closed out, if I'm not mistaken, all of that generation's EZAs, which means at this point we're going to start working on 2020 EZAs, I believe. So look forward to that. That's a good thing we can look forward to, with his EZA finally being off the docket. So with that, his super attack, he's now greatly raising attack and defense for one turn, causing immense damage and greatly lowering defense. On his passive, he gets Key 2, attack and defense 200%, and a medium chance to stun all enemies at the start of the turn. He is effective against all types when facing only one enemy, and he reduces damage received by 30% when facing 2 or more enemies. He has an additional attack and defense 50% and high chance of stunning the enemy when performing a super attack. He performs a critical hit on stun enemies. He also has an additional attack and defense 111% and performs a critical hit when there's a Universal Survival Saga or Tournament Participants. That's the new category added by the Int Androids category enemy. Now, on paper, the guy actually looks pretty good. The problem is, there's no content where you can actually use him. Like, this guy is a tech hit on steroids. You guys remember how good tech hit was when he released? Jiren is that and more. But again, there's nowhere to run him, right? We've already cleared all of the Tournament of Power series Extreme Super Battle Roads, right? Unless you're somebody who hasn't cleared those yet. But then again, any unit from the category released beyond 2021 can easily solo those events. So again, it begs the question, why? Right? I guess Universe 11 SBR and ESBR whenever that happens, but really, there isn't many places to run them, unless we intend to get some sort of Divine Will or Divine Wrath and Mortal Will event for Universal Survival Saga, maybe for like the 9th anniversary or something. But realistically, there's nowhere to run them, and even if we did get an event like that, there's no guarantee that it's going to be one where we can actually like stun the enemy and take advantage of that part of his passive. So it's really interesting that they chose to do this, as well as giving him the 30% damage reduction when facing 2 or more enemies. I guess that's useful in some early red zones and most super battle roads, but again, you're still not going to be able to activate that extra 111% of his passive. But who knows, right? This is just looking at him on paper. Maybe in game that 111% doesn't really make too much of a difference. We will have to see in game, but I am still just a bit concerned at the choice to limit him to more or less content that doesn't yet exist. It's very interesting. He's not the first unit that this has happened for, and I'm sure he won't be the last. So Jiren seems okay, but let's take a look at the others. So we have a Sub EZA for the Int Boto Mageta. He is now greatly raising attack for one turn, causing supreme damage to the enemy and raising his defense by 30% for 6 turns. So that's pretty nice. He, you know, a 6-turn raise is very helpful. Realistically, most events you might run him in, you're probably you're not gonna need more than that, because you're probably not gonna get more than a 6-turn raise. On his passive, he's got Key 3, attack defense 160%. He's got an additional 10% defense per Universe 6 category ally on the team, up to 60%. He guards all attacks when there's another Universe 6 category ally attacking in the same turn. when HP is 80% or less. He has an additional attack and defense 60% for 3 turns, and a medium chance of performing an additional super attack within the same turn after receiving attack. So, I mean, we'll have to see how the others are looking, but usually when we get a batch of Sub EZAs like this, there's always one that stands out above the rest. And looking at what this guy does, he's actually looking pretty good, right? He's got guard, he's stacking defense for 6 turns, he's getting more for Universe 6, and he's got some guaranteed additionals in there after receiving an attack. So looking good already, and the fact that he's gonna have guard on a Universe 6 and that extra defense with Universe 6 makes him, I mean, we'll have to see him in game, but I'm seeing a great slot 1 partner for Kale, which is what she needed, right? One of her biggest issues until she transforms was the fact that she really had no slot 1 coverage. I think this guy might just solve that issue, but we'll have to see in game. The other Sub EZA we are getting is the Fizz Champa. He is now raising defense for 1 turn and causing supreme damage and greatly lowering defense. He's got defense 160% and additional defense 120 when attacking. He gives Universe 6 category allies key 2, attack and defense 40%, and an additional attack and defense 20% when HP is 60% or less. So more, that's a 60% buff below 60% HP, which is pretty crazy to think about buffing an ally for 60%. He also has a high chance of attack 400% and a medium chance of attack 600% and a rare chance of performing a critical hit. Interesting choice that they chose not to just give him the critical hit, like a rare chance. Like, I don't think we've had any character with a rare chance of anything in quite some time. So, I mean, this guy was more or less a blank slate. They had a lot to build from here. It's an interesting mechanic to have him have 50% of the time do 400% or 30% of the time to 600%. I'm curious how that roll works. Like, if it rolls the 50%, if you don't get the 50%, then it rolls the 30%. And then you have X amount of percent there to not get anything at all. But it's interesting. I don't imagine him being greatest here looking on paper, but it is important to note that the Int Vados, who if you invested full dodge into, could actually be a useful support next to him, right? You're talking about increasing all of your allies by a significant amount, especially on a Universe 6 team with other Realm of Gods allies on the team. And plus, he will link fairly well with the Fizz Beerus, who also just EZA'd on JP. So I hesitate to say he's terrible. I just the chances here, it baffles me why they chose to do that. Moving on, we have the STR Full Power Frost. He is now greatly raising attack and defense for 1 turn, causing supreme damage and lowering attack. He has key 3, launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack, and a high chance of performing a critical hit for 6 turns from the start of turn. He has attack and defense 160%, and an additional attack 180%, and defense 120 with a high chance of stunning the enemy when performing a super attack. So, pretty basic, and like I thought, he's definitely the Boto Mageta is definitely the standout of the 3 Sub EZAs. There's usually the case. I can see these guys, we'll have to see what their overall defense is once everything's put together, but I can see these guys definitely being a decent slot 1 unit for Kale, which is precisely what he needs. But I mean, all in all, none of these really buff the androids category so much, because while their new category is tournament participants, specifically in the terms of Universal Survival Saga characters, as you see here, they're all limited to their specific teams. They all want other Universe 6, or in Jiren's case, not necessarily specific Universe allies, but his links mean he wants to be other Universe 11 characters, or other Jirens, like Full Power Jiren, for example, next to. So there's a lot that needs to be done with Universal Survival Saga in order to make these guys coherent. I think the Universe 6 has a stronger standing in the current moment simply because Kale exists. The Tech, where are they? These guys here. The Tech Frost, and Tech Frost. Tech Hit is actually alright in like SBR style content. I don't think this guy's gonna be terrible. He's not the greatest, but he's alright. Yeah, Universe 6 probably has a stronger standing now with these sub EZAs than it had before, but, you know, the rest of the universes, Universe 11, which is where you mostly want to run this Jiren, doesn't have a chance right now. Reps of Universe 7 still needs a lot of work, even though it does have the likes of, you know, Super Saiyan Blue, Kaioken here, and the new androids, right? It still needs a lot of work there, but who knows? Maybe all of this is building up to a big Tournament of Power themed anniversary or New Year's. Who's to say? Maybe that's why a lot of this seems disjointed. So, anyways, guys, that is the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let me know, what are your thoughts on these sub EZAs? And do you think they might be building towards something, given how none of these characters really mesh together well, despite the fact that they're all EZA now under the androids, who also don't mesh very well with them? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.